Welcome to Lunch Break, everybody. Grab that drink, grab a snack, grab a water, energy drink, whatever you like, coffee. Get it going. Join us. Like, share.
Hey, we're not too proud to ask.
Pages. Yes.
Justin, you weren't with me last week,
yes,
huh? You want to update us on that status? What happened?
It was an experience. For one, we're working on something real cool with the church. There's a getaway for the men's, and we're going to start using it for our men's retreats. And
I like that.
I don't want to give it all away, but it's going to be a cool thing for the church and for our men and everyone else. There's going to be youth events up there and everything.
We missed it, but Scott Winkler held down the fort for you.
Yes, it felt like I have a FOMO when it comes to the show, though. Like not being here on Thursday, I felt like I was missing out. It was tough.
Well, you did, so I'm just going to give you a hard time on that, but I missed you doing the show.
Yeah.
So we're glad you took out your lunchtime today, and did you hit something healthy? Did you say they could bring their fruit and their chicken?
Energy drink. But yeah, something healthy. You can get that water. You can get a little fruit basket. You can get your proteins right. Tom Hollenbeck, aka Lil T. He's on a very strong health kick right now. So if you need health advice, he's on a mission to become Big Tom.
Well, I know our producer Seth, and we got a new co-producer in Mike Harvey. Isn't that cool?
Yes, we're expanding.
Yes, our show's expanding. Well, our guest today is Anthony Galagaza. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Galagaza, yeah.
I'm glad you said that first because I read your last name.
Galagaza.
I'm not saying
it. Yeah, it always goes wrong.
But Anthony lost. He looks good. Anthony's always been a fitness guy, but he's on keto. So so he's out there joining the keto world, but he's always got to stay fit. There's fire chief in the city of Bakersfield, so it's a demanding job. But Anthony, thank you for what you do.
Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah, it is.
One thing. Who was I talking to? I was talking to someone. All firemen are always in great shape. Why? Before we even get started, I do want to just know why is this?
Well, we always encourage it because the thing is that with our job is life or death in so many situations. I mean, you have to think of your family, but you have to think of the people you're rescuing in the city of Bakersfield as you go in. So we always encourage that, and I think it's always I want to say in the station world, it's like a guilt complex. You're going to put the guilt on people. Get in shape, eat right, because it's one of those deals where your life depends on everybody's depends on it, and your brother, sister firefighters' lives depend on that you're in shape too. So it's the guilt complex, or
gotcha.
Yeah.
I've always just wondered that one.
So let us into the station house. Do they cook healthy food, or can they cook healthy food? Do they bring their own stuff, or is it like? I see the television shows. So
back in the day when I came on, which over 29 years ago, we had meat and potatoes. It was like that all the time, and people stayed in shape at that point in time, but it was how much you could eat at that point. So, but now you see them coming in, and the younger generation over the last 15 years or so, 10 years, they really come in. They want to eat right, be fit, going to the gym, working out, and so it's really changed the dynamic.
Kind of a shift.
Oh yeah, it's a massive shift. Now, don't get me wrong, firefighters have that. If you do something for the first time, is your first big commercial structure fire, you delivered your first baby, then you have to buy, but you have to buy ice cream. So you have to buy for the whole station. Now that's ice cream. So that's when we get in healthy, is when they get in there and they buy the ice cream. So
wow. How many babies have you delivered?
12.
Really?
Yeah, I still have the record. Yeah,
that's
actually
awesome.
2 in one shift one time.
Are there any? Do like the expectant mothers and the fathers say, "We're going to name our child after you"? Is that?
Not usually.
Okay.
No, the funny thing about that is that that was the one incident call that I did not want to go on as a rookie firefighter. I never wanted to, and of course, in God's sovereign grace, gives me what I didn't want. So I ended up getting the 12, and I still have the number. So
I don't connect firefighter with delivering a baby like at all. It's the furthest thing in my mind. So how do those calls take place? How do you guys end up delivering babies? Like, what does one of those look like?
Well, 65% of our calls are emergency medical services. So, and then calls for service, fires, of course, and rescues. So those calls come in various kinds. I mean, you'll get sometimes where, and that's why we always encourage, get to the hospital, get mom to the hospital so she can have it in a clean, good environment. Whether it's I've delivered on the couch, I've delivered on the floor, outside, in a car. I mean, it's just you just walk into so many different situations.
That's not on the job description when you just sign on the dotted line.
As a kid, when you think about being a firefighter, you just picture a little house fire, putting it out.
Well, the reason I asked that question, my middle name is after the doctor that delivered me.
Oh, get out.
Yeah, my mom had my first name, and of course my dad's surname is my last name. But I always, my name's Thomas Lee. Touchdown. And I was like, so who do you know that named Lee? He goes, my mom, like the doctor. So my wife and I got the birth certificate the day, and I just glanced down and I go, it was named Lee.
Well, to me, that's better than I was named after my dad's best friend in college, Tony, who ended up working for the mafia in Nevada. So go figure.
I'll trump you guys. I'm named after my sister's crush. So I'm like, parents, why did you allow this? I go, why was I named Justin? Well, yeah, your sister Kana just really liked this young boy named Justin. She said we should name you Justin. I'm like, really?
Funny.
So that's the thought that went into my name. That's horrible.
I love that stuff. Well, you guys are already getting into the show. This is what we do, how we do it. So excited to have Anthony on our show today. And
we have so much further to go.
Oh, we do. We do. So the question that came in from the audience last week was after Bill in Slethera, which is DA, and I probably messed up his last name. But as he was, he's a district attorney for the city of Bakersfield, running for a Superior Court judge. He was talking about, God, and he quoted some Bible verses and how it affected what he did. And so some of the questions from the audiences came in the form of, how do you integrate your faith into your profession? And how does it impact it? How far should you go? How far should you not go? That's, I think, up to you. I'd like to jump in right away. That's me, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I had worked, my first profession was 10 years, and it was in the sports arena, and I was not saved. So then I came into the corporate world, and after 12 years, 12 years of being in the corporate world, I ended up giving my life to the Lord. And I've told the story on this show how I had an operations manager, Diane Bailey, if you're watching Diane, hello, and came in after a shift one day, and they all crowded in my office, and they asked me what changed. And I looked at them, and I didn't know what else to say except for I accepted Christ. And they go, she told everybody, I told you all. She's from Alabama. She lives in Alabama now. And so she walked out, and I go, Diane, don't leave quick. I go, is it that noticeable? She said, it is. So I didn't know that my confession of Christ started bleeding over into my daily workplace. And so as the story goes on, with me, I worked for a company named Sunroll. We went bankrupt, just a lot of circumstance there. I decided to stay on with the company. A lot of people decided to leave at that time, but I was told if you stick us out through bankruptcy in my position, which is executive management, that I'd enhance my resume and I'd be valuable. So I did it for that reason, but I started to see a reason for Christ more than anything else, because I started professing my faith, started a prayer group, which was this time because everybody's job's in jeopardy. Company came out okay, and the company's done fine since then. But I started to give my input when it started to come to things that were involving money. Because when you go into bankruptcy, I mean, you owe somebody $1, you owe them 4 cents now. So we had to make some decisions, and I would make some decisions based on my faith. And it's really interesting how I wasn't always encouraging to be in the meetings where I would bring that point up. So there was an impact one time where we had to present all of our requests for payout to go to the judge. He had to approve it. And so I was told by David Aquino, who's the human resource director at Jeremiah, I forgot the name, David Aquino. I'll think of it in a few minutes. My mind's going someplace. So Jamara Vineyards, that's what he's the, yeah, that's right.
Found it.
You could ask if you know David. So basically, I out of all the requests, I dissented in the request to switch carriers from AT&T to another company, and I just said I think we should stay. So I was told that as the bankruptcy court was, the judge was rubber stamping, approved. When he got to that one, he put the approved down and said declined, and it went on. So they came back in, and my request was basically not to go with that group, declined. So we had to go with the one I wanted to. Mm-hmm. So my faith came out. Everybody came in, and they go, Pastor Tom, they called me Pastor Tom back then. There's Tom, that's weird. I had a prayer group, and I got to bring that. So it was effective within my group. And it was how I lived my faith out during a dark period in bankruptcy. Yeah. I just told him I don't agree with this decision, and the judge must have not agreed with me because he declined the one that they presented and went back with mine. So,
wow, I had a way different. So I've never had a full work experience since I've been in the faith. I had just I came to Christ because I had just lost a job and I was looking for a new job. I just got kicked out of BC for bringing alcohol into class.
You're that guy. You're that guy.
I'm that guy. My life was in the dumps. So I found Christ, and I remember my dad being so mad at me because he wanted me looking for jobs, and I was trying to serve to stay sober, and he just didn't understand that at the time. In hindsight, he's in love with what I did, but he couldn't understand it at the time. But I can say that my walk with Christ definitely didn't get me a job at Target, because there's this during this time of me being saved, and I was on fire. I'm telling you, I was on fire. And I got an interview at Target for a management position in their warehouse, and I'm taking the interview, and looking back, I'm like, what was I thinking? Like, every question he answered, I'm like, God's with me, so I'll figure it out. Do you work well under pressure? Yeah, I got the Lord with me. I'm answering all my questions like that, and I even picture the interviewer now was weirded out of their mind, right? Definitely didn't get a call back, but that was just who I was. When I found Christ, I was so far in the dumps. I don't think I could have had a healthy balance. So God knew he was calling me into a ministry because it needed to happen. But I've had to balance it out when kids. I got to speak twice at school assemblies, and they tell you before you go up there. They let you know you don't you even say Jesus, don't say it. And I was like, wow, how dare you?
Yeah.
But I'm like, okay, I'm gonna respect that. So I got to speak to them and encourage them. And then at the end of both times, I said, I have to just let you guys know, I'm a believer. And if you want to get to know Jesus, you can call me. And I've never got to speak at those things again, but it's just, if you believe in Jesus, it's hard to contain, in my opinion. It's hard to contain. People should know. And but there is a healthy balance, and I think that's what people like you guys have found out, because there's room for people to move in the work world.
Yes.
And you have to have a very special ability to know when to chime in, when to keep it secret. And Jesus even knew how to move like that. Like, don't tell people who I am right now. Like, don't mention this right now. Stepping away to heal the blind man. So there's no shame in making sure that you can keep your high position and keep your Christ with you. So everyone doesn't need to be like me and just be out there wild saying Jesus told me to do this and that. There's a special calling for a lot of people to be undercover agents, basically, but then let it out when God says let it out and not be scared.
I had to appreciate things because I was told once, I had a Bible study in my office, I was told I couldn't do that. And I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that. But I respected it because it was true. And so I took it outside.
Yeah.
There used to be an oil derrick out beside, my office was on California Avenue. And it's not there anymore. But there was an oil derrick out there. So we just go out there before the oil derrick, we just around kind of prayer. Yeah. Was out there at 7:30 before work started.
Yeah.
So you have to respect that.
It's a balance and respect rules.
Yeah, and I think that my faith in the workplace is, I've always said, and I even said it when I came into my interview for fire chief, is everybody says there's servant leadership. Okay, and we've always said that we're servant leadership, and I truly believe in that. But I've always said I'm servant leader who's results based. I will bring the results and positive results, and I'll open all those doors. But for me, my day consists of, the first thing I get up is I wake up in the morning, hit my knees, I pray, and I read my Bible, go work out, and I come to work. It starts my day, and I see that play out throughout my day, how I treat people. In our mission statement, at the end it says, legendary customer service. And the reason I'd put that in there is I always felt our firefighters give the best customer service. And who better than a servant leaders to give that customer service based attitude from the Bakersfield Fire Department. And in seeing that, I read a quote one time talking about when you get in somebody's life, and it was in a Christian book, stating you want to be legendary. You want to come across as legendary. And I put that together with legendary customer service so that our firefighters know when they go out there that you leave behind that legendary customer service and instill that in them.
Because sometimes, Anthony, you're meeting people at a really tough time in their life, right? I mean, like you said, you're coming out on medical calls, or when you do have
the worst day of their life.
Yes, and then you answer the call where there's a fire. Sometimes water doesn't mix with other things. Yeah. So as you leave, the fire's out, but their life may not be at a good point.
Yes.
And so being able to leave that legendary service there is so important because it's the human element.
And it's in our day-to-day when we meet people, we see people, whether it's helping the elderly lady with her groceries while we're at the store shopping to eat healthy, and then or just on the call, is making sure that we always talk about it is our customers are all of the people around the incident. You could have bystanders, family, people in there, and everybody there is a customer, not just the patient or the victim. And I think that we provide that. And as the fire chief, I've always sought that as servant leadership. I'm serving this public. That is my job. And my job is to tell them exactly what their firefighters do on a daily basis. And I think that my faith has played out through my whole life as far as getting to, I should have never been here. This is kind of one of those things that when I came on as a firefighter, all I want to be is a firefighter. They'd always say, well, where do you, in your interview, you'd say, where do you always want to be? Where do you see yourself in 5-10 years? I don't know. I just want the job. And that's all I ever wanted. So this is not of my own doing. I'm not saying I didn't work hard, but this isn't of my own doing. I just followed the steps put before me, and that's who I am in Christ. So
Amen. You put together an amazing team too.
They're amazing people, very good people. And as our chaplain, Pastor Tom. Well, first off, when Mr. California called me to come here, guess who's going to show up? So I love Pastor Tom and known for years. Actually, he doesn't know this. My brother Michael and I used to work out over at 24, and just wait when he would come in from down south and come work out and go, there he is. And we'd be working out and hanging out there. Yeah. So that tells you how old I am, right?
Interesting. Tells you how old I am. Anthony, you've always been a blessing in my life, and just to see the leadership team around you, how much they respect you, and just to me, it's enjoyable moments.
Okay, so before we get into your story fully, we have these questions that we ask. We call it something new, something that people may not know about you. We've shared many in the past. I shared that I write poems. He shared that he was on a magazine cover. That's my favorite one.
I think you like the calendar.
The calendar. Sorry, the calendar. That's the one.
You always hear firefighter calendars. Do you ever on a calendar?
I was in 2 of them.
There we go.
You already dropped one of yours
for our Burn Foundation.
You're supposed to bring that for us.
Oh, okay. Well, that's one.
Next time.
Yeah.
But
so now you have 2.
Yes, it's pretty awesome. But we share something quirky or something that people may not know about us, and I'm going to start and then pass it to Tom, and then we'll go to you.
Okay.
But I want to start because there's
there it is.
Seth
I was waiting
that.
for
I was literally waiting for it when I said what's new. So that's beautiful. Good job, Seth. But mine's a little dark, and it was weird. I had a couple other things that I wanted to share. I'm going to keep those for later because this one
we have to do one a month. That's what our creative consultants tell us.
So I wanted to share this one because a lot of people don't know that I went through this. But we were at a party one time back in the day, and a fight breaks out, and that was normal for us. That was a part of our thing, right? And some guys are fighting to my left, guys are fighting to my right, and there's a guy that I'm sizing up. I'm like, okay, we're about to fight, right? He pulls out a gun, and he literally pulled the trigger, and it jams. It doesn't shoot, but it was point blank, and he was going to shoot me. And he pulls it, jams, looks at it, does something. I'm shocked. I stand there. So I stand there long enough for him to try to. I was so shocked that he gets to try to fix his gun and tries it again. Still doesn't fire, and then I take off. I'm gone and run. And God was showing me as I was talking. I'm like, why do you want me to share this story today? Like, why? Because I don't share it often, and it's not a big deal to me. But my life, like when you hear in movies that life flashed before your eyes, I literally saw my mom, I saw my dad, I saw when I won a baseball championship when I was little, in like the matter of no time, right? And all it made me think was, even while I was just so far off, God was part of my story. And I just wanted to share that with somebody out there that I don't know why God was with me when I was the heathen that I was, but he was. So that's hope for someone out there, and it's something that I survived that a lot of people don't even know about.
Well, it is hope because God finds people where they're at.
Yeah.
And it's not neat that happened, but it's neat that you can equate that to what was going on.
Yeah, it was a crazy time.
So I'm going to drop this. May not be new to a lot of you. I shared on the show before. I was a host on ESPN American Muscle magazine. I keep saying I'm going to share the episode on my Facebook page, and I'll do that. I think the guys are doing something right now. I think they got a picture and stuff. But I want to go back to the moments. I think that moment I didn't. Oh, okay.
It's just him and all his meaty power. There it is.
So
I love it.
Different guy there, but I didn't. I go back and I didn't appreciate the moment I was in. I remember working with Lou Zwick, who is the producer of American Muscle Magazine. I got the call from my agent, Marty Demersion, who had International Sports Management. Marty wanted me to do it, and he says, I was always worried about how much time it was going to take. So Marty, I don't know if he just misled me, or I guess I could say he lied to me. He said, it won't take much time. You're going to fly out of Santa Monica Airport, private plane, get to San Jose, because it was filmed in a place called Bread of Life. Back in the early 80s, there was some collaboration starting with fitness and health. So nowadays we have Trader Joe's and we have Lassen's that you can go to. Back then you didn't have anything. So there was a place called Bread of Life, and it was in San Jose. So we went there, and I was told I was going to get the script on Tuesday because I didn't write the script. I'm going to put it up on Facebook, and I'll roll with it on my Facebook page. But I didn't write the script. Some nutritionist wrote the script. I just had to speak it. Said I was going to get it on Tuesday. Didn't get it till Friday when I got on the plane. So I had to memorize the script going up there. And so when we got up there, everything was set up in a real live store that people were shopping in. So I was like, how's this going to work? Nowadays, you just wouldn't do it that way. So we did it, but I don't think I appreciated the moment because it took up too much of my time. I did a couple more episodes, and I told my agent I'm out. But it was just a moment that I did that. And as I look back now, I wish I'd have probably taken a little more time, appreciated it for what it is. American Muscle Magazine still being produced today. And a lot of the people want the old episodes because I was reading online that Lou said that his office had a flood, so he lost all the early episodes. So I've given away this episode to some guys that were actually looking for the old episodes of American Muscle Magazine. But it was just when the bodybuilding world was just starting to present itself to the world. Mm-hmm. So they want to let people know that there was a grocery store that didn't use hormones. They had fertile eggs. They had chicken that was raised naturally, and they had that, and they wanted to get the word out, so they teamed up with ESPN and us knucklehead bodybuilders. but there again, the bad thing was I wasn't represented at health because I was loaded with anabolic steroids, growth hormone, doing a lot of bad things. So I was kind of like almost a kind of a what would you call it, hypocrite. Gotcha. I say you could look like this naturally. You can't look like that naturally. I think everybody's starting to get that. The Kentucky Derby horse just disqualified Medina Spirit. Mm-hmm. So the PEDs are in the sport, but I just was saying. So I don't know if I appreciated the moment. Yeah. So I would look at our audience and say, appreciate the moments that you have. Yes. I wish I'd appreciated that moment a little more, and maybe have done my whole commitment to ESPN. So Lou, if you're out there, appreciate you guys.
All right. Mine's an interesting story because I shouldn't be here as fire chief right now, but God saw different. So we'll go with that. I go in my physical because that's your last thing. You get a conditional job offer and you have to take a physical, and it always says pending your physical. Well, I'm colorblind, and knowing that I come in and they'll let you, but unless you pass a certain test, and back in the day it was just this old book that gave you colors, and they'd give you 5 different colors in the book, and you had to pinpoint the number that was inside. Mm-hmm. So I know coming in, and I'd already explained, she says, well, yeah, you can have a certain level, but you have to get 3 out of the 5 right. The nurse, so we're sitting there, and I'm just sweating. First one I get. Second one I completely struggle with. The third and the fourth, I see nothing but just a bunch of colors. And then all of a sudden she goes to the 5th one. She said, you have to get this right. You have to get this right. I'm sitting there and I'm staring and trying to stare at it. And I'm like shaking and sweating. And then all of a sudden I said, I don't see anything. She goes, you're right. There's nothing there. Closes the book.
No way.
And it was, I still look back on that day, and it was because I thought, because my cousin was actually the first colorblind pilot in the Navy years and years ago. And which is interesting because it runs throughout my family. And I just always remembered that story and thinking, this is the only job I really want. I always wanted to be a firefighter because my dad was a retired 30-year firefighter for Bakersfield City. So, yeah, it was sketchy.
Isn't that interesting? Now, Mike Maggard was on the show, and he said he was colorblind, but he sees different shades of gray.
Yeah.
And so he could tell the colors. He told a funny story, Mike, if you're out there. Mike told about the first day he dressed himself. And he thought he had all the colors laid out, and Mary came home and said, what'd you wear? He goes, I wore this, this, and this, and this color. She goes, you don't have those colors. So he laid out what he wore, and I guess it looked like a clown suit or something.
So thank God for uniforms, because I know what I'm wearing every day. No matching ties.
I love that.
Yeah, that's speaking of taking things for granted. Even having 2 people that were colorblind and just being able to see color, that's something.
Yeah, man, it is. It is.
A daily thing that you take for granted.
It is.
So let's get into the actual story.
Right on.
We like to start with a lot of our guests in their early years. I don't know how early we want to go, but I would like to know when did you first spark that you wanted to be a firefighter? When did that just first happen?
Well, the joke is it was when I came out of the womb, and the reason is my dad, like I stated earlier, he was a 30-year firefighter for Bakersfield City. He was a fire captain, and but when the spark truly came is watching him come home from work and speaking with him, just noticing his job satisfaction. And one day I just sat down and he says, well, hey, you might want to think about being a firefighter. And we kind of just talked about with one of his friends were there that was a firefighter. And I said, well, I want to make money. You know, I want to do something in business. That's all I knew. I was, you know, goofy high school kid going, I just want to make money. And he's, well, you definitely won't do that here. You know, it'll always be middle class. And guy looked over to me and the other firefighter, and he said, you know what? You'll never be rich, but you'll always be happy. Ooh. And he goes, there's days those people in business world will be eating steak and you'll be eating hamburger. But there's going to be times when they're not eating steak, but you're still eating hamburger. And to me, that resonated down the road, and just realizing, hey, this is something that I want to do. I jumped on about 16, 17 years old, figured it out, and I just got obsessed with it. Mm-hmm. I got some friends together that I still keep in touch with that are in different departments. And also in my department as well, as you know, Jimmy Cherry and I, we were working on this together, and this career throughout, and just getting with those certain people at that certain time just really gave me that spark. But going back, I mean, it's just it's the work ethic of my mom, watching her through, and then she was a single mom throughout the times, working 2-3 jobs, and watching her work ethic brought me to that point. And so I've always come to that point being just thankful for just having this job where I literally can work one job, to where watching her all those years just struggle, but to continuously have a trust in the Lord constantly, and watch her. She never came home. She wasn't ever depressed or angry, or I mean, and I'm not saying she wasn't, I'll get to that point, but she always was looking forward. That's the only way I can actually say it, is mom was always looking forward, and she was always trusting God to get her through this life. And to this day, I always say, the thing is, she's always had a smile. There's all the time she's always had a smile, just in her heart of gold. But yeah, that's when I got the spark.
You know what I also can hear in your statement there, it's like I would translate that into your dad's friend says, you may not be rich, but you'll make a difference.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. My wife teaches in the public school district, and my wife tells that all the time. She had somebody said, well, you know, I want to make a lot of money. She goes, well, you may not make a lot of money, but you will make a difference as being a teacher.
Absolutely. And the job satisfaction that comes with that.
I think sometimes what I do, I love, because we get to be in people's lives.
Exactly.
And I would have never thought about myself being an athlete and then being in the corporate world, but being able to be part of, you know, Phil and Keith and Lewis's and Tommy's and people's lives in our audience today. It's just such a satisfaction. Yeah. So I can see that being a firefighter.
A career with a purpose is high importance in my opinion, just because I can't imagine. I can imagine being rich, and I'm sure it could be fun, but waking up with a purpose every day and doing that for a living, it trumps everything. It really does. It's not a competition. It trumps everything.
Absolutely.
So rich people find a purpose. I don't think it's bad to be rich.
No, not at all.
You have a lot of money and you're not finding that happiness, you can put that money to work and find purpose. Start organizations, do things like that, and you will find that fulfillment.
And no regrets.
We always told my girls, find something you love to do, and you won't work a day of your life.
Amen. Yeah, my dad told me that.
And as you do that, it just makes it easier, because work's hard.
Yeah,
professions are hard. There's things that we all do, but it is. I love that. Anthony, were there any mentors or anybody that inspired you outside of your dad, or that as you just came up, sports in high school, college, or?
Well, and you know, I've thought about that numerous times, and the thing is a lot of times we like to bring up mentors that were either long ago that you met that kind of got you through these certain times, and I already brought her up, but my mom is critical, and here's why. When I was 5 years old, my parents split up, and my mom was without what to do, was invited to church, went to church, and at that point I always say, you know, my salvation kicked in about 6 years old, because my mom found the Lord. And when she did, it was that was it.
Profound.
So she became the mentor because as a single mom making so little, I constantly saw her work ethic, but more important, her spirit. And she still lives out her Christianity every single day. And I love that about her, is that my brother and I see that every single day. I mean, and to have that mentor every single day to come home to, and then truly not appreciate her when I was doing all my goofiness, and then truly appreciate her later. I mean, she's, without a doubt, I still watch her this day. I go over her house. We've always said we go to her house, we feel comfort. Because when you're there, it's just like it's welcoming. You don't have to knock, you come at any certain time. And she's always there to help everybody. And it's, like I said, it's that constant, and I want to say positivity, but it's her spirit. It's just constantly comes out because she's a woman of the word. You know, she's Proverbs 31. I mean, you know.
I love that. I love that you got introduced to a faith element in your life young.
Yeah.
Because I think it makes a difference, you know, and as you did have your mom as a mentor, and moms out there, you guys got to realize the impact that you have on kids. You know,
he's at 6 years old. He noticed the change from his mom going to Christ. Like, that's, man, that even inspires me. Like, and the children, people who are in youth ministry,
and to live with a person like that, though, you just, and to live with them every single day, but to actually still see them as a mentor, because we all make mistakes. Because I look at my kids and I'm like, I don't know, they see me as a mentor all the time because I've failed so many times. But to actually live with that, and I'm not saying she went without fault or without failures at times, but it was her spirit, constantly living out the word.
Kids are watching.
Anthony, could you say it's almost got to be real? I tell people, you know, the thing that's worked in my life is Christ. Mm-hmm. And I tell them, it's like Justin said, when I went to a job interview, I couldn't help but say that. You're talking about your faith. You know, it's that overflowing effect. You know, Jesus says, I'm going to pour it out, and it's going to overfill, and it's going to, they're going to splash over onto other people. And I think that's something that is true, and your mom truly lived that out.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. She's completely real. Mm-hmm.
Still living that out. Mm-hmm. I love it. I love everything.
So another thing that was mentioned, I want to make sure I leave enough time because I want to get into your profession and some of the calls you've been on, because I'm trying to think for the audience. But before I get there, Tom mentioned something earlier that you're a newlywed, and I always strike that vein because marriage was a life changer for me, from being such a womanizer type person to one woman who I love and adore and to death. So how is it newlywed? What's it like? What's your experience right now?
Claudia, my wife Claudia, beautiful,
and I've met her.
Inside, outside.
Great lady.
Amazing woman. We were set up. She worked for Telemundo, and as an anchor, and she works for the schools now. But we were set up through some mutual friends, and right away, she was that person I needed to know more about. Every single time I was with her, I needed to know more about her. And it was like we would just constantly, we would discuss things, and I'd be like, why do I want to know more about her? I get, but it was just constantly coming at her and information. And she's just this sweetest, humblest, and she's gorgeous, by the way. But all of that together in one package. And newlywed's good. I love her to death. She's just a sweetheart.
Amen. We are happy for you.
Yeah. And I tell the audience, I tell young kids all the time, there's got to be the va-va-va-voom factor. I mean, there just is. And I always tell that to people. I go, it's what attracted me. I can still tell you that what my wife had on the first time I saw her, our first date. I will tell you this was something funny. The first time, Tiffany, I'm going to tell this, so I'll be in trouble. First time I ever went out for Tiffany and I, we went out to a restaurant, and she was in it, and she was wearing a black and white polka dot dress. She was squeezing a lemon into her tea, and the lemon juice just came straight out and hit me right in my eye. And I was like, and it was like, it stings. And it was like, she's like, I'm so sorry. And it was funny. I go, honey, it's okay. And she kept apologizing for that. But it was just kind of I'll never forget that.
No, you don't.
You have those moments. And I can still describe the dress. And so I love that.
Well, and the beauty of it is my mom, my mentor, and my wife get along amazingly well. They love each other, and God, that makes it so much easier.
That's what happens when God's involved. It's different. I learned in my marriage, God was fully involved. In all my other relationships, He wasn't even a factor, and it's a night and day difference.
It is
night and day.
Amen.
So, I want to get into some of the stories of being a fireman. Like, what are some crazy calls you've been out on that you can talk about respectfully and without giving people's information or making you uncomfortable? But what's some of the craziest things you've seen? And what is the thing you love most about your job and the hardest thing about your job, about being a firefighter?
You're
in a different place now, but I mean being a firefighter.
fought fire for so many years out at Fire Station 2, which is, everybody knows Luigi's and Pyrenees Bakery out in that area. And I see some of the guys shaking their head. Yeah, they know from eating out there. But I worked
That's our crew. That's our crew over there. They're
sorry about that.
Seth knows good food.
Yeah. So we were, working out there so many years. You see so many tragic things. But going back to what's my favorite, it'll always be fire. I mean, I just felt that was, it sounds weird, but my most comfortable environment. I love fighting fire. Bigger fires, the better. Because everybody used to always say, you get excited about fires and as if you want them to start. No, but if they're going to start, I want to be there to put them out. So that was always my thought process for that. So fires were my greatest, the most tragic calls we'd ever have. And to me, post-traumatic stress injury is a real thing. And bringing in the chaplaincy program, we brought in a wellness program too when I came in as fire chief.
He did. I mean, honestly, he set it up for the firefighters. If you don't know about the wellness program, you got to talk to the chief here.
Yeah, and with Battalion Chief Mike Walkley, Deputy Chief Trevor Martinezson, who just retired, we set the wellness program up so that we could serve these tragic calls, but not only for the firefighter, but it affects the family, it affects the marriages, and we've talked about that before, because I still have incidents in my head that I relate to, and I'll go back. I was a firefighter, and going to the medical aid compartment, before I could open it, I went to open it, and I was pushed from the back, and I turned around, and the mom says, "Save my baby." She hands me her baby, and as I'm doing CPR, I start mouth to mouth, which we're not supposed to, but that was my initial reaction because I had a baby and I was a newer firefighter, and I was doing mouth to mouth and have done CPR probably, I'd say 1,000 times in my whole career, but this time it was with this baby in my arms, and I'm doing CPR for the longest time, and the baby, it was a SIDS, had aspirated. So I always tell people, and not to freak anybody out, but every 6 months or a year, I'll wake up in the middle of the night and I can taste that. And it brings back that call, and there's numerous calls within my career that have happened that just comes back on you. And those are always the tragic ones. Is anytime you deal with the children or a tragedy that a child has to go through or see, or a parent who's lost a child, there's nothing more tragic than watching that, and then watching it going down. And then when I was a fire captain, having to tell that individual that your loved one passed. Because they keep saying, "Can you save him? Can you save him?" And they've been down for so long that you can't. And then you have to explain that to them on scene. And all of us have gone through that. And hats off to all my firefighters. They're just amazing people to be able to do that on a daily basis, and to see our call volume continuously increase in this town, and the town's getting bigger. So, yeah.
You guys should be paid more.
I vote for that.
Yeah, it's just the more you hear, it's crazy, man. I appreciate what you guys do.
Man,
I can't, just hearing that alone it'll change your whole world.
The firefighters, police officers, law enforcement, they do. They all step up. They answer the call.
You don't hear about the bad. You don't hear about the day to day that our public servants go through. So appreciate it, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
It is. You know what I like just about our conversation, Anthony, is the fact that you've been through so much and you're still in it for the firefighter. When you started the wellness program, I loved it when you brought in the wives. Or the husbands of the female firefighters, and you offered services for them, because knowing that they are going through this traumatic, and what a toll it plays on marriages, and how they need to be able to have a conversation with somebody or be around somebody that can help them and help them stay glued together. Those were the things that I always admired about you and what you were trying to bring to the department. It was about a team. It was about a family. It was about the individual firefighters.
Absolutely.
And as you've gone through that, have you seen some of the victors? I know you've been presented awards at the city council and things like that. Has there ever been a moment that you were able to step back and go, yeah? Maybe behind the scenes, where it's like, I was able to do this for a larger group of people, and nobody may ever see that. Because I think they always say characters in what you do when no one's looking.
Yeah. I always look back, and I see as like a global perspective of being able to step back and look at what has happened in the many years. And I'm so impressed by the people that I work around, that every day as this team has gone forward, and having that team concept and us rallying around what we thought, okay, what's best for this department, what's best for the city, and being able to do that, and knowing the chaplaincy program, wellness is just some small things, but knowing how we could better serve the public. We did that through initiating rescue squads we've never had before, because the call volume in emergency medical services was going up so fast that we needed to address our response times, being able to get to people. But every day to step back and go, wow, how you've touched the department, Lord, how through just using me, because I'm just one of them that he put in the spot with the whole team. And for us to be able to do so many things together and watch this department just flourish through many bad times also. Yeah. But to sit back and watch all the different things that have happened. And you were talking about the wives and bringing them in. And I found that was so important, because when we discussed it, my staff and I, they can't fix the person that's hurt, the firefighter that's hurt. So they have to come in, because if they can't fix this person, because they think I want to help, sometimes they need the help as much or more sometimes than the firefighter, because the firefighter sometimes just shut off. Okay, and a lot of times their therapy's in the station talking to one another, and when they get home they clam up about the situations. I went through so many tragic calls, like the ones I've discussed, and then some, that just happened on a daily basis that I literally forgot, that I went home, didn't discuss, didn't let loose about it, but I would do it at the station maybe. And it's just to give them that understanding that we're not only here for the firefighters, we're here for their families, because so many times they need the assistance as much as anybody else.
Yeah, it's a family unit.
Yeah.
Anthony, is there anything you want to let our audience know that maybe we haven't covered, or just something, because our time always flies by?
Yes, it's gone.
Yeah. Anything you want to just...
I do. It's just to understand, for Bakersfield, Kern County, understand what your Bakersfield firefighters do every day. And I can't express it enough, that legendary customer service, because that's their aim, that's their goal. They have good days and bad days. We all do. But your firefighters are out there working tirelessly. Just to let you understand, we had 27,000 calls with the same amount of stations 10 years ago. We now have 47,000 calls 10 years later with the same amount of stations, the same amount of personnel, but they still keep going out there every single day. And I that's why I say it's my job to tell Bakersfield what they're getting for their tax dollar, and they're getting the best bang for the buck.
Yes, I feel good having a man of faith like you in there.
Yes.
And I definitely believe in your story. Like you always said you want to be a fireman, but because you're a man of God and because you put him first, he's calling you to more and called you to a chief, and I'm sure that's not the end of it. So just keep doing what you're doing, man.
Yeah.
Thanks,
you are a man of God for sure. It's a pleasure to meet you, man. Yeah. It's cool.
I love it, Anthony. So, well, if you guys have any questions out there, you can reach me at Pastor Tom at vbf.org.
Jay Greer at vbf.org.
Chief, how can they get a hold of you if they want to...
If they want to get a hold of me, they can call the front office, 326-3911, area code 661.
Or leave something on your stove too long.
Oh, yeah. or Facebook Messenger. Yeah, because we'll come running one another.
You cracked yourself up.
I did. I always have to do one. Thank you guys for watching. This was Lunch Break. We'll see you next week.
You take care. That's funny.